Myth and Meaning, published in 1978, is a concise exploration of some of the key ideas and themes that define his approach to anthropology, particularly in the study of myths. The book is based on a series of 5 lectures delivered at the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation in 1977, and it serves as a clear and accessible introduction to his complex theories on myth, language, and culture. The book begins by challenging the common perception of myths as mere stories or primitive beliefs. For him, myths are complex systems of meaning that reveal deep structures of human thought. Myths are not irrational or simplistic. Instead, they are sophisticated narratives that encode the fundamental ways in which people understand the world. Myths function like language. Just as language is governed by rules of grammar and syntax, myths are governed by underlying structures that determine how their elements are combined and interpreted. These structures, which he refers to as mythemes, are the basic units of myth, akin to phonemes in language. By analyzing these mythemes and their relationships, the book seeks to uncover the universal patterns of thought that underlie all myths. This structuralist approach allows to move beyond the content of individual myths to explore the deeper logic that organizes them. Myths, in his view, are not random or arbitrary. They are systematic expressions of the human mind's attempt to grapple with fundamental questions about existence, society, and the natural world. The second chapter explores the relationship between myth and science, 2 seemingly opposed ways of understanding the world. Contrary to popular belief, myth and science are not fundamentally different. Both are rooted in the same human impulse to make sense of the world, and both rely on similar cognitive processes. Myth and science represent different ways of organizing and interpreting experience. Science seeks to explain the world through empirical observation and logical analysis, while myth operates through symbolic and metaphorical thinking. However, both rely on the same basic structures of thought, such as categorization, analogy, and opposition. The difference between myth and science lies not in their content, but in their approach. Science strives for precision and generalization, seeking to uncover universal laws, while myth is more concerned with particularities and the relationships between things. However, both are ways of making sense of the world, and both reflect the underlying structures of the human mind. The third chapter addresses the idea of the savage mind, a concept he introduced in his earlier work. The savage mind is not a primitive or inferior mode of thinking, but rather a different way of organizing knowledge. He argues that so-called primitive peoples are not less rational or intelligent than modern people. They simply have a different way of understanding the world. The savage mind is characterized by a focus on concrete and particular objects, rather than abstract concepts. It operates through a process of bricolage, or the creative use of available materials to solve problems and make sense of the world. This approach contrasts with the scientific mind, which seeks to abstract general principles from specific instances. The savage mind is not a relic of the past, but a universal feature of human cognition. It is present in all societies, including modern ones, and it continues to play a crucial role in how people understand and interact with the world. The distinction between the savage and scientific minds, then, is not a matter of evolution or progress, but of different ways of organizing knowledge. One of the central themes is the idea that myths serve to mediate and resolve oppositions. In the 4th chapter, he explores how myths address the fundamental contradictions and conflicts that arise in human life. These oppositions, which include life and death, nature and culture, male and female, are universal across cultures, and myths provide a way of making sense of them. Myths do not simply reflect these oppositions. They actively work to reconcile them. Myths often present conflicts and contradictions, only to resolve them through symbolic means. For example, a myth might present a hero who overcomes death, thereby reconciling the opposition between life and death. In this way, myths help to create a sense of order and coherence in a world that is full of contradictions. This process of mediation is central to the understanding of myth. He sees myths as a way of thinking about the world that allows people to live with and make sense of the fundamental oppositions that define human experience. Myths, in this sense, are not just stories. They are tools for understanding and navigating the complexities of life. The final chapter addresses the relationship between myth and history, two ways of understanding time and human experience. He argues that while history is concerned with the linear progression of events, myth operates in a different temporal framework. Myths are not bound by chronological time. They exist in a kind of eternal present, where past, present, and future are interconnected. This non-linear conception of time allows myths to address enduring human concerns that are not limited to a specific historical moment. Myths are timeless because they deal with universal questions and dilemmas that transcend historical contingencies. By situating these questions within a mythical framework, cultures are able to address them in a way that remains relevant across generations. The book also explores how myths can incorporate historical events, transforming them into symbolic narratives that resonate with broader cultural themes. This process of mythologization allows societies to integrate historical experiences into their collective consciousness, giving them meaning and significance beyond their immediate context.